you're here at Hobnobbin obviously because you have work in it, but also because this is meant to bring the community of this region of filmmakers together. What is the importance of the Indiana filmmaking community growing together and collaborating?
Yeah, I think as a filmmaker and as a creative, it's really important to invest in your community if you want to see change and you want people to make projects here and be able to express themselves through cinema. And so making projects where you live and hiring local people, using local equipment, filming at local businesses, I think that's all really important to support the industry.
So a lot of things that have come up in common with the interviews I've done so far has been the value of Indiana storytelling. What does the value of Indiana storytelling mean to you?
For me, I think that Hoosiers have a unique perspective when it comes to the way in which they see the world. We're the crossroads of America. People don't often think about the Midwest as someplace that has valuable stories. A lot of the times it's East and West Coast people think of movies coming out of, but I think Hoosiers have a humble perspective on life, whether it's our connection to the land and the way in which we, grow our food or raise our families, or I don't know. I think that a lot of people here are family oriented. Hoosiers get a rep as being really kind. I was at a film festival last weekend, and everyone that I met from out of town was just like, everyone here is so nice. And I think that really is true. We're just trying to be friendly, and I think that comes across in our art as well. I personally like to tell stories about family relationships, about motherhood, sisterhood, about grief, spirituality, and so I think probably my background as a Hoosier comes across in my work as well.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because your film on The Water's Edge seems to have those kind of heavy themes to it. Kind of talk about how, what does expressing those kind of themes mean to you personally as a person?
Sure. As you mentioned, The Water's Edge, it is a story about a woman in her 30s who makes the decision of whether or not to see her ailing mother for what could be the last time. She fears that going and seeing her mother in such a fragile position will change her perspective on their relationship. And so for me, conveying those themes, I think, is important because grief is something that so often people think about after someone's passed. And so we don't think about how the anticipation of losing a loved one affects us. And that was something that I thought I could tap into and share with other people. And the film's also a reflection of my relationship with my sister. And so just showing how grief and loss of people that we really care about affects us in different ways. And that we don't always react in ways that maybe people perceive as being normal. Sometimes we clam up and go inside ourselves, or other times we launch into difficult situations thinking we can problem solve our way through it. So just everyone has a different approach to handling challenging moments in their life.
So let's talk about the film you produced, It Happened One Weekend. I use a movie review app, and I went through and was reading the user reviews on there after the screening, and a lot of the the reviews all included how it showed a completely different or unknown side of Indianapolis as a city. And I had thought that as well, where as I was watching the film, I was like, this is the Indianapolis I want to visit, because usually when I'm down there, it's just highways and construction. I don't spend extended time. So how can Hoosier filmmaking highlight the beauty of our state in a way that people don't normally see it?
It Happened One Weekend definitely takes time to display Indianapolis in a way that a lot of people haven't experienced before. It lingers in moments where other artists maybe would move on quickly, cut away in the edit. But our cinematographer, Taylor Decker, he just has a very patient, fluid style of filmmaking. And it really does Indianapolis justice. I mean, Indianapolis has so many beautiful monuments and parks. We filmed at Highland Park, and in the opening you can see the shot of Monument Circle, tilt down on the monument. And I think the black and white obviously helps bring out some of Indianapolis's natural beauty. But I think there's also something to be said for shooting in a place that hasn't been showcased a lot before. There's so much potential just even in your own backyard, and I think that's something that I hope people can take away from that film, is that you don't need to travel extensively or go on a study abroad trip or something to make a film. You can just showcase the things that are meaningful in your life and things that you encounter on a daily basis, and just bring your fresh, unique perspective to them and hope that other people enjoy them as much as you do.
So for the Hobnobbin Film Festival, like one aspect that the co-chairs really focus on is having the conversations together and leaving knowing that you've done some networking and have thought from the films that you've watched. How do you find Hobnobbin beneficial to the filmmaking community?
I think Hobnobbin has a lot to offer to the filmmaking community. I'm so glad that we're able to be back at the Cinema Center this year after a challenging couple years navigating through the pandemic and not really being able to connect with people in the ways in which we've done previously. And so just having those face-to-face conversations about either the craft of filmmaking or the business side of it, whether we're talking about how to tell stories, how to interview people, like we did yesterday with HODocs and the Constructing Your Narrative panel, or the tax incentive that just passed a few months ago in Indiana, how to leverage that for productions and filmmakers. I think that Hobnobbin, being able to use it as a way to facilitate those conversations and a place where people can come together and ask questions and get their questions answered. I'm glad that Hobnobbin and the Cinema Center are here to provide that for the community.
And I think the last question, because we've pretty much covered everything I've wanted to, is just what is something important about either Indiana filmmaking or Hobnobbin in general that you think people should know that I may not have asked you?
Yeah, I think Hobnobbin is really unique in its own right. It's different than other film festivals because it elevates storytelling above all else. If you don't have really fancy equipment or the largest budget to work with, it looks at, okay, what are the themes that you're trying to convey? What is the story that you're bringing to the table? And who are you as a filmmaker? And what is the unique way that you see the world? And Hobnobbin, when they're programming the festival, they really look at those aspects above maybe the technical elements and things that can be like barriers to entry for a lot of filmmakers. So often film festivals are just like, oh, well, your picture quality or your color grade or your sound design isn't professional quality, so we're not going to take your film, when maybe it has a really great story, really great narrative and characters that can impact and touch other people. So I'm glad that Hobnobbin is able to showcase stories of all varieties and doesn't look at technical barriers.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you very much for giving me a few minutes of your time.
Yeah, thanks so much.